So let's let him go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, we pay a lot more for other things that we,
Oh,
you
we
know,
didn't.
like, you know, just add them. Like when you go walk downtown,
Jamie
you
and
see those
Janice.
globes
Jamie
and
and
all that,
Janice.
everything looks great.
I can fly down, he's right here.
Yeah. You could have him sit right there.
Streets that have those roads and surrounding.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and take mine.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And it's part of our
No,
community.
No, the only people who are important are the panel. You don't.
It's all right. I would have been getting back to you.
No, that's okay.
Busy today. Okay, I have everyone here. All right. 5:30, so let's go ahead and call this to order at 5:32 p.m. and welcome everyone. Okay, so on the roll call, Patrick Collanders is absent, excused, and then Suzanne Cox. Right here.
So earlier this afternoon, Ms. Cox submitted her resignation from the panel.
Okay, Andrea Katana. Here. Yeah. Janice Young. Eric Gibson.
Here.
Ostrowski, that's me here. Jamie Young. And John Bonar is absent or excused. Oh, we were on mute? Okay. Do you need me to start over with?
Can you just announce the people who are present?
Okay, so the panel members that are present. Sorry. Eric Gibson, Esther Koski, Richard Levin, and in place of Ian, we have Barrett Oliver. I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Tonic. My apologies. Okay. Okay, ready to move forward. At this time, I'd like to invite any public comments.
Currently, we have no one participating via Zoom, and there are no members of the public in attendance.
Thank you. Okay. Comments from the city manager. At this time, I invite city manager Raymond to give us a report.
City Manager Raymond is not in attendance today. We do not have any other announcements other than to announce or share Mrs. Cox's resignation.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move on to discussion item number 1, which is public outreach efforts. And I invite city manager, assistant city manager Moises Lopez and project manager Alexis Escobar to give their report.
No, sir.
I'll start. Yeah, so first of all, thank you for whoever attended the holiday stroll. I heard there was good and maybe not so good responses, so that's up to your opinions. Today we do, I was not able to be there, so I would like to have a little bit of information of what you guys thought, your opinion of what the residents were saying out there. And after that, we'll discuss additional outreach opportunities, and then we'll discuss the signs and handouts as well. Yeah, don't have any other comments, then I open up the floor to the panel discussion.
Thank you. Did anyone have a chance to, I know Andrea, you were there. Did you want to provide any comments on?
Sure.
Go ahead.
It was overall a positive experience with a lot of positive feedback from members of the community. However, many of them did not live in the zone and would not be voters on the issue. There were a couple, and we did encourage people to talk to their friends or neighbors that lived in the area about our outreach and effort. There was one person in particular that I spoke to that was very much against the whole thing and did live in the zone. So it just made me wonder how many more people were out there like him, and how we can reach more of the people that live in the area that will actually be affected by the
Can
voting.
you share why he was so against it? Like what reasons?
Number one, they thought they were already paying for the lights that weren't on. So hopefully we did encourage them to check their property taxes and to also call the city or county if there was any issues with that. And I actually encouraged them to come here, but they didn't. And then that was the major thing.
Did you tell them that they were not paying for it?
I did, but they insisted that they were. And so, you know, I was like, well, go back and double check. And if you have any issues, call the city, call the county, and they'll get that straightened out. You shouldn't be paying for it. So, so that was it. But I think it was a good effort. And I think it was good that people saw that we were doing it. Just kidding. It's just, we need to reach the people specifically in our areas if we're going to be successful.
So, any other comments? Anyone else that might have?
I spoke to a few there, including my neighbor, and they're positive. The feedback about restoring the lights as we remember them for some people 30, 40 years ago is really a positive issue. I think they were concerned about how much they were paid within the assessment, or whether the city was already paying for it, or they were being billed for it. Because some people have been around 20, 30 years, I remember paying the assessment. Original, it was like a fee or something like the assessment. So they were concerned about how much they would actually be paying for the operation costs. I did explain to them there would be a CPI attached to that over a period of time. So I think a little bit more information about what the cost and operation, maybe an adjacent district or maybe another city that has something similar to what we're proposing might be a good comparison. But overall, I received a lot of positive feedback from a few people that were outside the district, but especially the ones within the district. I spoke to a few of my neighbors, and they really want to see, especially on the Wabash. There's so many pedestrians that you know, daily, even in the early evening, they're walking along in the gardens. And so it's imperative that they sit down, have some lights on. So I think overall it's just the assessment, as far as the light assessment. They asked if there's any other districts within the San Gabriel Valley that have something similar.
For comparison.
And for comparison, yeah.
I don't know what else.
You live on Wabash?
Yes,
I live on Wabash. It's very, very dark.
it is.
Halloween was empty.
Very dark. And I live right across from the Door Gardens. And one time I remember seeing the lights on. Now, a lot of the elderly people, when I open the door and walk myself, they're sitting across from my house, sitting in lawn chairs with flashlights or their phones or something.
Yeah,
And they're walking across the street in the dark.
and the sidewalks there aren't flat.
No, they're not.
They're terrible.
It's struggling for my own family members to walk, and then especially if you go down towards Bennett, and then it starts coming down. But having the lights on, I think a lot of people would like to see them back on. I think it's just a comparison right now is what the assessment district, what we're proposing, if we're consistent with other districts and how they're operating and maintaining their districts.
Well, that's an interesting point, because now that becomes a safety concern.
Oh, yeah, I think it's always been.
Yeah,
My
I mean, you got the
elderly-
safety concern because of the faulty wire, you know, that stuff, but now not having lights.
Yeah. My elderly mother-in-law would walk the street at dark, not because she was scared of being mugged, but the cracks in the sidewalk, the trees, you know, old
Yeah.
sidewalks.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do have the community on Wabash, retirement, it's not really retirement, center, but is it the garden?
Senior- yeah,
the senior garden, yeah. I mean, they would all love to walk up and down.
Oh, yeah, all night.
They don't want to, they sit out front and
Some-
wait
yeah,
until the
some-
sun comes back.
Yeah, there's some are going up and down there,
Yeah.
they're all motorized.
So it is a safety thing. To me, it's always, well, not always, but only that, but.
Right.
Safety. She's been on the phone, that insurance company. I'll represent her.
I was just gonna speak for myself in response, because I was there, I had a chance to hand out some of the flyers, and I was just kind of the mindset that anyone who walked by, I wanted to hand it to them, because I figured, you know, even if that particular person didn't live in that area or on that street, they might have a family member or a friend, and there's a reason why they're at the event, so I enjoyed it. I kind of just handed as much out as I could. I don't know, like, I did have some conversations with some people, and there was one elderly couple that was just that responded that, you know, we've tried this before and we didn't do it before, so I don't know. It was nice to be able to have something in hand to give to people, so at least they could take it with them. So maybe we didn't have to engage in conversation right then and there. That they could take it with them or give it to a friend or family member. And I did also get some positive feedback as well. Some people were like, oh, we were just talking about that, you know, and so, yes, I want to, you know, ask some questions. So I had some good feedback so far. What's this? You wanted to give a report as well.
Sure. As has been expressed, there's a lot of participation from members of the community. I think it was a great idea to have a table set up there. We were able to get people as they were walking up and down Glendora Avenue. I do want to add, I did receive an email from a resident who lives on Bennett, who is within the boundaries of the district, in the week leading up to the village stroll, expressing some support for the project. He too expressed concern about the darkness in that particular area. He's actually a gentleman who had reached out to us about a year ago and was inquiring as to the status of it. So we provided him the information, so he's aware of where we are as a panel and what comes next in the next month or two back to the city council.
People that came in, did anyone have any comments about discussion item number 1, which was a public outreach effort and handing out the flyers?
I have a question.
Sure.
The last couple of times we've been told that you guys are going to give us signs to put into the things. Did we get them?
Yes, we do. We actually have them here. Want to hand them out. We've got 50 of them. We're happy to order some more if you guys would like some more. They're about this big, and it's the design that was approved by the panel. And they come with metal stakes too, so that you can put them on. You can stick them on something, or you can put them in your on the grass.
Awesome. Thank you.
I have a question on that line. I went ahead and bought a couple of those outdoor brochure, acrylic boxes. It says take one, you look to it and grab one.
Mhm.
Am I allowed to mount that to a light bulb legally?
Not technically within the public right of
Is
way.
anybody here gonna call the police on me?
I can give you I can tell you what the rules are.
Yes, okay. I think I hear you.
I was actually following that. I was wondering if I could comment about this on Facebook, like on a Facebook page. Are we allowed to even discuss that or put it out there?
On your,
Like, say
I think
that-
social media, well,
on your Facebook page? Absolutely.
Okay.
Should we put a link to the city link?
Yes, you could link folks to the web page that's been created for this project. The QR code is also there. The one pager is a PDF, so you can also post that directly on their images. So entirely up to you.
Okay, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to.
I don't have social media. Are you asking about?
Like,
Actually creating a Facebook. page.
No.
Just discussing it on
I
a
know,
social media
not
platform.
I'm not that smart.
Which I mean, I know a lot of people don't have it, but it's a powerful tool.
The hard thing is that we're just talking about the 304 people that get to vote.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if public, like, gets
Yeah.
behind it, it might help get those people to vote. It's also good to get the information.
I just had an epiphany.
Oh, right.
Ooh, yeah.
And this could go, it could go for us, but I don't think it could go against us. But I think there's a way that we can mimic the lighting. Because it is a light bulb in these fixtures, right? And you have to change them, right? We could get a simple freaking battery powered whatever and put them in the bulbs and mimic the lighting so people can see it. And that would be something that would be, you could get a couple, $2 for a fixture to put something there so it illuminates it, so they can see it firsthand. And so they can see, okay, this is what it's going to do. And I think that would be a kind of a cheap alternative. But the problem with that is like, why do you just keep on doing that? Which we don't want to do that, but it's going to give, it's going to let the people see it and see what it does. I mean, they could just walk downtown and see how beautiful it looks in those globes and everything right there. When you walk downtown right now with the lights and everything in those globes, it looks awesome. But for them to be able to see it on the streets rather than visualizing in their minds, a lot of people can't visualize things. Some people can, some people can't. But if you could put in something that illuminate that glow and they can see it and they can see the power that it brings and the beauty and all that, maybe that's like, this is great, let's do it. Just visually, they can see what it looks like. Because a lot of people, like, I don't know what it looks like. And I've been living on that street for 20 years.
If you just go to the
For
park,
20 years.
if you go to the park at night, that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah. But wouldn't you like to see it like right in front of your house on the street?
When before we moved to Glendora, well, she lived here, this is my wife, we walked the street before we were married, and it was so beautiful. You can't park on the street, which is, at first I didn't understand, but now I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And those lights were on, and it was so peaceful and so serene and beautiful. It kind of made me want to move to Glendora, and we did. We bought a house, raised kids, well in high school.
I'm going to get something to put in front of Memo at Yadira's house in their light. Can I do that?
Let's look into it.
Again,
Let me look into it.
It's my neighbors. I mean, it's right there.
Yeah.
I'm actually a little curious to hear your thoughts on this idea.
Well, first of all, I don't know what kind of battery we use right now, so I don't know if it's going to be as bright as the actual.
It's just like an LED kettle, but just bigger power.
Right, but
Don't overthink it.
Right.
It's just a light in the globe that'll illuminate it.
yeah, we can look into it, but we just have to see what kind of battery we're going to use.
It's thinking outside the box now. Just to see the globe illuminated and just see what that might be. I mean, it's as simple as a couple of AA batteries and something that'll light the globe. You try it, see how it looks. Maybe you need something brighter. Maybe you kind of, you try to mimic it to where the lights are working right now.
Who would maintain that though, like the on and off?
It would be just one thing. We're going to illuminate the lights just so you can see what it looks like and explain to people. And so you see, like a solar type deal too.
It was on a desk, it was off it down.
I think if we did
But that's where it
something,
can work against you because they're, well, you just do
Just like
that.
that.
well,
that's
you
the
can't
problem.
do them all, but I think if you did it at a certain light that had signs or flyers or people or something, right.
You would tell them, hey, we're doing this, it's a
Small scale.
temporary thing so we can see what it looks like.
Let us look into that.
It may have value, it may not, just an idea.
Yeah, let us explore that. We'll follow up with.
I mean, I would love to see what Glendora Avenue looks like from Bennett up Sierra Madre with all those illuminated. As you're driving up, as you're walking up and you're like, wow, this is much, much better. And then guess what? They start thinking, yeah, this is not a bad idea. Let's try to get this fixed.
So I have an idea that's not as cool as yours, but.
I don't know if it's cool, just an
It
idea.
might be kind of cool. I don't
It's
know.
cool.
I was driving to work and when I was in Arcadia, I noticed the lights they had there, although it was already morning, the lights were off. There was just a little bit of garland around them that just drew my eye to them. And they had like little Christmas lights too, but I'm sure that we probably wouldn't be able to plug into anything, but just that having the garland around it with a little red bow at the top was enough for me to just look straight at them. And I know our hope is to raise awareness and to do outreach, and some of this includes information, but for others it includes like that visual, seeing something that kind of triggers the idea or the desire to get the lights turned on. And so just a thought. I don't know if something like that would be in the budget. It's kind of a different type of funds, but it's just something to kind of draw the eye. It doesn't involve, the lights, but just something garden, because this is the time of the year where everything is romanticized anyway with Christmas lights. People love Christmas lights. They love Christmas decor, decorations, and it might be kind of fun, but I don't know. I don't know what everyone else thinks about that idea.
Well, that would be wonderful, but the whole idea is to get
Is
this
the light.
information to the 400 or 300 people that have to vote. So if we put a garland to draw attention to the thing, it would have to have some kind of sign saying, go here and read about what we want to do. So it'd be of value, including the lights. Like if you had the lights turn on, we would have to make sure that maybe every address gets a note saying, this is what's happening. This is what we're trying to do. Again, it's about getting the information to them.
And this is,
And on this
is
day,
when,
we're gonna turn on the lights so you can see how one would look or something like that.
I'll walk down there and put flyers in everybody's door. I mean, it's not like it's covering a large area.
Yeah,
Just
And I
give me,
noticed back.
400 flyers and I'll go put them in.
honestly, I think the key to this is
Yeah.
just getting all the information that we've all learned to the people who have to vote.
Yes.
Even
Because
like a
it
little
kind of does, yeah, even something like that.
I forget what these are called. QR codes?
Yeah, I would agree. If
I
you
think we
place
were
that
already
in,
putting the sign on the lights, correct? Are we still doing that? We had already planned to have the signs on the lights. We are still doing that. And I think a little garland or
Something
ribbon
to
or
do.
bow or something that goes with it is a good
Something
idea.
to
for the
know,
whole-
it
for the
doesn't have to be
holidays.
expensive, just.
Even
the
if
ones
we
that I
tie
saw were
around
pretty
like the
cheap.
yellow ribbons, remember the yellow ribbons and the red ribbon for drugs? That draws attention. It's like, oh, why do all those lamps have that tie?
One of the things that I was thinking about with regards to these, because I was like, oh, let me find some tape. I'm just gonna stick it on the light bulb, but it was raining.
Right.
So I don't know if anyone else thought about plastic sleeve strings.
Well, that's right.
No, we're putting signs that
yeah,
probably
the
are
sign-
mine out of a similar material.
Yeah, why don't I?
Yeah, we can
Oh, I
see the
didn't know they could
sign.
do that.
That are waterproof. at
Yeah.
least.
I was gonna find it in a Ziploc bag, but I'm like, oh, that's kind of tacky. Maybe I should ask.
Yeah,
There are two sides.
These are beautiful.
that's
I
nice.
can't wait to
Yes.
put one in my.
Yeah,
That alone
me
will
too.
get the conversation started.
Yeah,
That's great.
I like that.
Perfect.
We had a bigger one at the holiday stroll and the sign drew people over for sure. I have a question for the city people who have done probably similar things before. I'm sure there's some type, like eventually we're going to go door to door probably and hand out flyers and give information. But there's probably a timeline or more closely to when they're actually voting. I don't know that we would do that now if the voting's not going to be until March. Do you have that type of information? I mean, how that's typically done and at what intervals?
I think generally speaking, more information is good. So I wouldn't necessarily limit yourself to when a vote might occur, although I think it is important to do it then. So I think it's about continuous engagement to make sure that folks know what's going on and are informed of all of the information related to this project, including the costs and what has been done by the panel and all that background information to provide some assurance that it's not just something that's being imposed on them, that there's been a thoughtful process behind it. So I would certainly encourage the panel members to go out there and engage with your neighbors and let them know what's going on. We can certainly provide printout handouts and make those available to all of you and pass them out as we need them.
Has anyone had a chance to go door to door and maybe hand out some of these flyers as well as the stroll?
I haven't done these flyers, but I talked to a few people. Everyone I spoke to were fine with the 300 or less. Everyone. but I didn't talk to everyone on the street yet. But if I'm bringing those home, I'll walk up. Tell them about sticking in their yard.
On the holiday stroll night, we had a lot of people in my office that night. I talked to a lot of people about it. A lot of people, everybody was for it, and a lot of people were upset that they weren't allowed to vote.
Yeah.
And I told them, look, if you're not in this gray zone, it doesn't really pertain to you. They're like, well, it does, because we walk there, we drive by, you know, it's part of our city too, but I tried to explain to them the best I could and how it works. And, I wish we could open it up to the whole city, but I know that's not a huge can of worms. Is there any way, you guys probably know this, is there any way we could make it some kind of like a nonprofit donation thing? Because I think people that aren't even in that district might donate $100 to the cause. Is it a write-off? I mean,
Folks are certainly open, or we're certainly open to that donation concept. We would have to find a nonprofit that can act as the fiscal agent for that money.
does it take a long time to set something like that up?
No, actually, the simplest route typically is finding an existing nonprofit that's willing to act as the fiscal agent.
I think we talked about having the historical society, but there were some, I don't know, some reservations as far as maybe confusing or mismatch or, you know, mixing funds.
Yeah, that's potential. I
But
mean,
the historical would be a very, I think, the easiest way to.
Or is
set
it
up.
the same as like the Save Our Schools? When they did the Save Our Schools, they saved a lot of money for that. The Save Our Schools org, remember that, the sign, and it would just show how much money was coming in. Whoever was in charge of that could probably figure out how to do this.
yeah, that nonprofit would have to accept, obviously, the
job.
Yeah, the ability to do that and make sure that they're able to account for that and be very transparent about that as well. But Kyle, am I missing anything there?
No, I agree. I mean, that fits, just making sure the funds are accounted for.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there are other residents in the city who may be encouraged to you know, donate for this district, and they might benefit us.
But there's not necessarily something to donate to if we don't get the 51% of the vote for the lights.
I'm on the board of the Historical Society.
All right.
We've talked about this issue before. It's come up organically on our end as well, because we started a project to promote this a few years ago, which is why I'm here. And we are open to the idea of being a fiscal sponsor, but we don't know how the handover of funds would work. So if someone from the city office can liaise with us, I'm the secretary, you can get in touch with me. I'm perfectly happy to do it. Of course, you have to take to the board and get a vote, but the idea's been floated before.
That's great. Cool. That's great. That's great.
So maybe some of the Historical Society friends would help us knock on doors and pass out flyers and whatnot. We should probably have flyers there.
Yeah, in fact, if someone from this committee other than Ian or myself wants to come to the Historical Society board meeting at any point before the vote, we'd be happy to have a discussion about that.
Could we put a sign in front of the Historical Society?
The museum, absolutely, I was going to take one.
Awesome.
I know I haven't been here for the previous meetings, but I have some simple questions that might help with this. What is the amount of money that we're asking these district folks to pay every year? What are they voting on?
That's still not.
That's the question. that I
Somewhere between $200 and $300.
Yeah.
Did anybody
Per
see
year?
that
Per
bid?
year? Yeah, for like 20 years.
The 8th, December 8th.
Oh,
We'll get to that one.
You would have to answer that.
Somewhere between $200 to $300 per year.
For 20 years, is that what I remember?
I thought it was 30.
It's, I think it was 195, and that includes an amortization of the loan for the current estimated shortfall of $700,000. And then likely it would be somewhere up around that number because there would be a inflation percent, in CPI increase included every year up until that went away as well.
This is based on a 20-year term?
Yeah, that's what the numbers we saw last time, based on a 20-year term.
That includes
Maintenance? Does that include
Yeah.
maintenance?
that includes the original fixing of them and the upkeep as well.
Yeah, that number is based on the engineer's estimate that we currently have. The actual cost will see next week.
December 8th.
I don't know if this has come up in the meetings at all, but when we talked about this a few years back, we talked about the fact that there might be some resistance to the fee. We looked at Medina as a similar city that's focused a lot on its historic components, and we determined that, you know, the focus on the historical aspect of that district has raised their property value quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
So if anybody's running into that kind of resistance, you can say that $200 or $300 will pay for itself times over.
Wow, that's why we at one point talked about putting a sign on all the lights saying historic streetlight district or something like that. So it actually has a title and a name.
Yeah.
You could use that when you're trying to sell your house.
And then also the safety issue that, you know, that could potentially raise the property value as well.
Mhm.
When is your next board meeting?
January, I don't have it off the top of my head, we do the third Monday. of the month. Everyone's got a calendar in front.
Third Monday of every month, minus
The
Christmas.
16th?
If
That's
somebody wants to give
MLK
me,
Day.
Yes.
That's the third Monday. Second.
Yeah, the 16th is the 3rd.
Do you have them on holidays?
Martin Luther
Martin
King.
Luther King Day.
yeah, generally we do.
Oh.
Unless,
Yeah. I could come in.
Is it at the museum?
No, we're doing it at the castle right now, so there's not enough room in the museum anymore for all.
Always running.
Yeah, well, if somebody wants to give me their contact information, I can send you the meeting information. Everyone's welcome to attend.
Does anyone think you right off the bat if they want to?
Okay.
I think I can attend on that day. Yep.
Maybe talk to them about it.
Generally do our public business. at the beginning. Can you give me a simple overview of how that handover of money would work from the nonprofit to the city?
Yeah, I'm gonna go through and look it up just to make sure that I've got it all documented and I'll send it in a write-up so that way you have it. I guess detailed and easily available.
Yeah, because usually it goes the other way.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, right, yeah,
It goes from the government to the nonprofit.
Yes.
So.
yeah,
We can follow up with you.
yeah, we'll follow up.
6 o'clock. You can get a hold of me at secretary@glendorahistoricalsociety.org. It's a little bit long, but it's pretty simple. Anybody can write to me there.
Historical Society, Glendora.org.
Glendora Historical
Okay.
Society.
Felt like they want to have the Glendora in the rooms.
Any other comments or deliberation on public outreach efforts? I'm assuming this kind of encompasses just other ideas that we have or that we have thought of during this time.
And it'll be something that we continue to talk about too, because it's going to be dynamic.
So again, I apologize, I'm not on social media, so wouldn't it be good to just create a page for on Facebook or on Instagram?
I thought that, isn't that what that QR code takes you to?
It takes you to a web page.
Like just the city
Yeah.
page, right?
Yes.
But I mean,
Like
because I'm making a
creating-
hashtag or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
It's been a few years, but I
You can cer-
remember some of it.
I mean, I guess you can create an account if you want, but I think your goal is to reach your, zones here. So keep that in mind. I've built web pages before, they take a while to grow. Accounts do take a while to grow. So whatever you do, maybe it's a Facebook group that you could, if you know your neighbors, put them together in a Facebook group or something like that. But whatever your efforts are, just remember that you're trying to work with the residents in the city.
We need to focus the 304 whatever votes. Or,
Yes.
It's long, but it's really simple.
So
I
aside
appreciate
from
it, of course.
just panel members going door to door, is there other resources that we could use for the kind of the funding that we have for these lights to help us with more outreach efforts, ideas? I'm just asking.
I'm not quite sure what you're asking me. If there's any other ways that we can engage residents?
Yeah, am I trying to form this thought? Is there, or do we have any other options at our disposal to do outreach other than just going door to door? Or is this just something that we all have to come up with for ideas? I mean, obviously we've received money, from the state, and it has to go toward the lights. So can some of this money go toward additional outreach in addition to us knocking on door to door? I'm just looking for other ideas, and if anyone else wants to comment on it or has ideas.
I think we're open to ideas from the panel. Obviously, there are some cost considerations, so there are things that we simply won't be able to do, but I think a lot of it will be very much kind of a retail operation, if you will, trying to get out into the communities that they're aware of that. So if there's let's say there's a community event or something where at the park, where, we could set up another table similar to what we've done with the village stroll in the village, to kind of
Are there more
magnify the
events like
presence.
that coming?
We could check. I don't
Okay.
know right off the top of my
Because
head.
I'm just thinking there's the big recycling thing, but that's not till April, so that's probably too late.
There's the
The parade is Saturday.
Is it parade Saturday?
This
Right,
This
right.
Saturday, next
So-
Saturday.
Put a light on it. We'll start building it right now.
I'll make a light costume for John.
So if I can just add to the recycling
Yes.
event, so balloting won't start until probably March, April or so, and
Okay.
there'll be a 45-day period, right? So
Okay,
once we send out the ballots, there's a 45-day period. And in terms of voting, that's when you really have to be active, because that's when it matters.
okay.
Right now, I believe it's getting the information so you all can discuss and understand what your neighbors are understanding, so that you can make your recommendation to the city council. After that, if we could decide to proceed with the ballots, if they decide to proceed with balloting, then they'll mail out the ballots, and then you have to really make sure you engage your neighbors so that you get every vote in. So there will be, even in April, there will be opportunities to continue that outreach.
Okay.
But even before that, it's about still kind of just keeping them engaged so that they don't forget it.
Keeping it kind of at the forefront of their attention.
Yeah, because we're kind of running out of time.
When does the balloting or voting start?
Well, there's no set date right now,
Okay.
but we'll start that process after the January council meeting. If council approves us to proceed with that, we'll begin that process. And we're thinking anywhere between February and April, we'll get that set up. And then once it starts, it'll be a 45-day
Oh,
period. Yeah.
That's one day.
And there will be a meeting as well, like a outreach meeting
Mhm.
specifically for the balloting as well. So you could also make sure
Oh,
you engage your neighbors to attend that meeting, because that will be a specific balloting meeting.
And that would come before the ballots go out, or?
Sometime in between, right? Yeah.
Okay,
So ballots go out, there will then be a meeting, and then ballots will be due.
If we could get a list of city events that we could possibly be at between now and whenever the balloting ends, I think that would be helpful. I think, I don't want to speak for everyone, but I think at this point, we all agree that we would recommend to the city council to proceed with balloting the district. So I think we need to make continued plans for how we're going to get the information out, because like Esther's idea of putting garland on the light post for the holidays is great. Maybe on Valentine's Day we stick a heart on there, you know what I mean, just to keep things fresh and people looking at them and keeping it out there. So we could come up with some ideas for that.
Should we update the flyers each time we learn more
I think so.
information?
Is this
I think
the
so, because like this is the flyer right now, and some people will read all of this. I work in education and know that a lot of people won't read all of this, so maybe we want to have some flyers that mimic the signs that are less information, just to keep the info out there.
This is
Like a postcard size?
It's yes, but they added the, hold back. Just shout it out. We don't give off phone.
If we want to look at this from a marketing perspective, this is really messy and confusing. And something half this size with a bold graphic. What's the
Like the
point?
yard sign,
Yeah,
like the yard sign?
more like the yard.
Something
sign.
like that, but I would say even something like with a photograph, something that's got bright, bold, big type. I mean, this can be made a lot more attractive to pick up.
Are you doing Photoshop? Can you make one?
Actually, we made one a few years ago,
There is.
so I'd be happy to share that.
Yeah,
with you
great.
all. The information's probably out of date, but otherwise, something a little bit.
I like your idea of having multiple, it doesn't have to be just that one until April.
Can we do door drops? Is that legal?
Sure.
Yes.
So we can just have people stick it at, like, take out names.
That's what triggered my thought about asking for additional help. Like, we,
So I think like one of the simple things is to
it's a service.
make them half the size, print
Yeah.
them on heavier paper,
Cardstock.
cut them in half.
And then have someone actually deliver them like they do with just general advertising. We'd be able to do something like that. That help.
Let us take a look at that. As I've shared with you, our biggest concern is we can play an information and education role, but once we start mailing stuff out, it turns into advocacy. And
Are we allowed to do that now?
You are.
You're not, but we are. That's why
Yes,
we're
we
here.
can have.
Yes.
I guess my question was, can we use a resource that just puts them on people's doors if it's not us? That's a question.
I have to look into that.
I think it would be us, just
Yeah.
coming from having to do this for
Yeah.
education, like we have to volunteer non-work hours to pass the things out, but it's not
It's not
a
that
huge
many
area,
houses.
so,
300 houses?
yeah, yeah,
Do
it
this
would,
in an afternoon.
yeah, it wouldn't take long. I can do my area.
Something like that.
I think the individual, we just keep.
Like, I think we do it multiple times.
More.
Everyone's good with doing that at their own
Mhm.
street.
Dropping it's a lot easier than knocking on the door
So-
and talking to them, but you might naturally see more people that way too. I'd like a buddy system if we're actually knocking on the doors of people we don't know. But I don't know that we're at that point yet. The like cold knocking on the door, but.
What about, putting these on the village?
We're on the
Putting
village.
flyers.
Can we have them
Yeah.
put it up in the windows? Like, can we go to the different stores?
I think the village is good. There were, and I know the stroll brings in a lot of people, but there's a lot of people in the village that don't live in the area. So just my thoughts during that time is really trying to focus on getting the information to the people in the area that live in the zone.
I had one more thought, and I'm just gonna say it because I was thinking of it, but I mean, it's the end of the year, so there could be some philanthropists out there. I don't know if we wanted to put a large donation toward it, just to see the lights turned on. You know, there are some pretty nice homes on the north side of Glendora, and so maybe might want to spare some extra.
That's what we're talking about. the
Think
donation.
about having something where if people just want to donate, even if they are not on the street, that, I guess, points them in the direction where they can donate and adding that.
But
to the
again,
flyer.
if they donate and the people on the street don't vote yes,
What happens to that money?
and what is their
Can we
donation
turn
for?
it back over to?
We'd have to roll that in and say, this is, we've raised $500,000 additional, so now the cost, and there's gonna be really no cost except for keeping the lights on, the maintenance and all that, which would bring that dollar
Yeah,
amount down. So you'd have to tell
What happens in that kind of situation?
Like if it was 100%
Money
paid
goes
for,
away.
I don't see why we would vote it down.
Because people have to pay that tax twice a year.
Yeah.
But it would go way down because the tax is part of that $700,000. So
Part of
you
it,
covered
yeah.
that $700,000, then what does it look like? What does
I
it
think the
cost?
$700,000 doesn't end up being a huge piece of the, that they presented before.
I feel like we're having different conversations here. Are we trying to, it sounds like I understand that if we get the donations, right, $500,000 amount, then that reduces the shortfall, right? But then there was also a conversation around what happens if we don't move forward with the district?
Yeah.
What happens to the money then? Do we have to return it to all those that donated, or is there some sort of caveat that your contribution is non-refundable and it's now forfeited to the historical society or the city, whatever it ends up being, and we get to decide or pick and choose what we do with it, you know, we're
Put it towards something else.
I think that's where
That's what happened to the $1 million last
I
time.
think that starts to get a little sticky. I would say donations are probably better if we go down that road. After we've gotten the vote, because remember, just because people have voted to approve it doesn't mean construction has started. Right, so if we've got, assuming the district gets approved, you've got time before the district gets approved and construction actually starts in the district.
Plus the calculations can be adjusted.
Yeah.
How much of it?
Well, that's
So what would be the dates that donations could start to come in? The date after is approved for the city council to move forward?
no, the day after it's approved.
Yeah, after the voters.
We have to get the voters to
Oh, I see
approve
what you're saying, yeah.
the ongoing
If the voters don't
costs.
vote for it, yeah, okay.
Otherwise, the lights aren't gonna get fixed and
Then maybe that should be explained in one of these subsequent flyers of the establishment of a nonprofit or a fund, and then anticipating that hopefully the balloting does pass, and then the proposed cost can be reduced. So that may be something we can explain in a subsequent flyer, something that may go out to the community after it's been distributed.
I think the answer to the question about donations is legally, you're not required to give the money back. Donation is general.
Exactly what it is.
It can always
then
be
you have
held in
unhappy.
a specific fund and we decide to do this again.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's a thing.
We held in that stuff.
I'm not a financial or legal expert, from what I understand. They're not required to refund donations for that reason.
I mean, Esther's right. There's a lot of people in this city that have deep, deep pockets. From here to Morgan Ranch.
Those aren't.
They're not in the district, I understand, but it's the people of the city of Glendora that always walk down Glendora Avenue and everywhere else. I mean, they walk down Glendora Avenue. I mean, there's 1,000 trick-or-treaters there.
I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all. And I agree that there's people who would donate towards it. The problem is there's not even a project if we don't get 51% of the
Right.
vote in this area. So I feel like that needs to be our focus right now. And that's what the city needs us for
Why did it
in
get
order
shot
to
down?
move on.
Why did it get shot down three previous times?
They didn't have-
Because of the cost,
No,
right? We
didn't have
agreed on
all
that,
the
right?
information.
No, because one of the costs, I mean, yes, because of the cost, one was large, one was not that large, but neither one of them got anywhere near
When the,
50% of the vote.
when the cost was reduced, how did the votes go? It went up.
60 instead of 90.
It went up, right? You can't argue that. That's the facts.
It went up, not enough.
I know, but it went up.
I think from.
That's my point.
I think from a practical perspective, Ms. Katanik is correct. I mean, the mission of this panel is to engage residents in a dialogue and determine the interest and feasibility of renovating the antique streetlights and the potential support for the creation of an antique streetlight maintenance assessment district. So step one is the assessment district.
Okay, so after that's created, say we win, and so step two, maybe that's when we put on our, let's go
Doesn't preclude
round up.
fundraising.
The guys have tried to pass this 3 times. It's got shot down because of the cost, the perceived cost to the homeowner. That's all I'm saying. That's just the facts. She is right,
So,
but so am I.
I'm sorry.
yes,
I agree.
but donation,
I'd just like to comment on that. You used the word perceived, and I think that's the key word.
It's perception. We use this all
Right,
list.
so one of the things that we ran into when we talked about this a few years ago was, well, people don't want to pay more tax for something they don't think is benefiting them. And I think that's, to be blunt about it, it's a marketing thing. If they know that the property value is going to go up, they're more likely to want to pay that tax.
Knowledge.
If they understand the appeal of preserving history and that sort of thing, obviously I'm on the historical society, so I'm, working on this stuff all the time, but we need to appeal to them. It's not simply about
I
the
agree.
dollar amount, it's
I
about
agree.
what they think they're going to
Educate,
get.
Right.
educate, I was here for those other ones. I don't remember ever seeing a flyer or being invited to a board or anything. All we
definitely
got was
not a yard
a
sign.
letter in the mail, it's $3,000. And it's like, why? What did they do?
Yeah.
That's
So-
why I voted no the first time.
Huh?
Because I had
Didn't
no,
have the
the knowledge wasn't there.
Right.
And the money, what do we pay? We have to pay for this? The perception was that they want us to pay for all this stuff.
Yeah.
And we talked about that earlier meetings.
What are they getting for it? They're getting
You know?
safety,
Right.
they're getting the pride
Value.
of history,
Mhm.
they're getting, their property value is going to go up. And you talked about people outside the district. If their property value goes up in the district, then everybody's property value goes up.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what we need to put on a flyer.
It took me one meeting
get
to
people
understand,
do the assessment.
and I was like, okay, I'm gonna vote yes now.
Right.
So the people in the district have to hear what I heard.
Right.
And that's
Right.
knowledge
So right
to
now-
change
And
the
that's from
perception.
us.
Yeah.
That has to
Did
come
they
from
do that
us.
last time? Did they do this last time?
No, that's why they did this whole
They
thing,
had to.
because
Didn't
strike
you have to
three.
have an ad
We gotta
hoc
do something
committee
else.
in
So the
order
first
to
two
make
times,
people
they
vote?
never really had.
Or is that
that.
new
No, you can do
law?
public workshops, things like
There was
that.
enough.
You don't have to have it.
I would,
Yes, it's not a law.
2005, 2006 and 7, 2008, strike one, strike two, strike three. They went to this, we gotta do something different,
Right.
and this is what we're doing different here. And he makes a good point, that the perception, the knowledge, and the understanding
Yes.
is what's
Simply,
I
missing.
agree.
If we redo these, you should just put across the
And,
top, preserve history,
hey.
property value increase, safety, and that alone might get your attention.
One of the biggest factors here that's driving this forward is the $1.5 million grant that wasn't there in strike one, strike two, strike three.
Yeah.
It's very basic.
There's a different set of circumstances today.
Perception, money,
Yeah.
knowledge.
Mr. Oliver is correct. To the extent the panel can communicate the value to the community along all of the fronts that have been discussed, I think that is a very big advantage to you. From an advocacy standpoint, we've got our hands tied because we're legally not responsible. We're not legally able to do that. But, a potential partnership with the Historic Society in promoting and advocating within the district boundaries is something that could be pursued as well.
Once the city council hears the presentation and votes, are they able to advocate for it or?
The council members, they can certainly express support for it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? If they agree to put it to ballot, has anyone talked to the city about, is there any way they could put in some monies? Or are they just completely, no, we're not putting in any money at all?
We
I've put the
have to
city
make,
orders,
we have to make the
Yeah.
recommendation in our presentation.
Okay.
I actually,
Stay
we're
in the
kind of
game.
transitioning into the next item on the agenda, which is
Okay.
actually developed. No, it was great, actually, great timing.
Good transition.
Yeah,
It's like you paid me.
Segue.
So I want to make sure that we're staying on topic because I know I did mention something about this additional philanthropy, which is kind of past the forming of the assessment, but the goal is basically to figure out what we're going to ask for public outreach efforts at this time so that we can form the assessment district. And so with the conversation over here, I was thinking, okay, well, what if we did do another flyer that just basically highlights the values that the assessment district will receive in return. So like you were saying, the safety, the property values, you touched on the fact that Pasadena saw an increase in property values after their lights went on. I don't know if there's any information that we could add below, hey, property values go up, just something very very basic and very to the point. That doesn't have too much information on it, but just, gets to the point. So were you gonna say something else? I'm sorry.
I just had a simple question. It's 300 houses. Do we know how many people have to vote?
We do.
We do.
And
Property
we could probably share that. There's a list of
We
that.
have a
owners.
presentation.
Yeah.
100 is not that much.
I thought it was 304.
It's
Oh,
300 and something voters and you have to get
50% was
51.
Yeah.
It's parcels.
Sounds easy.
Or parcels.
Yeah.
We had a number of votes that we needed to get to, and we kind of calculated based on the properties or whatever. I mean, if you look at 300, you need 151.
Yeah.
Does
But
does
is it
this
300
include also the vote include the churches?
No,
Any of the
only
churches
one
went on this
vote.
program?
One per
Because it's
resident.
the homeowner.
It does?
Yeah, it's not the resident.
Does it include the churches?
The homeowner, so if it's
Yeah.
renters.
So they would have an opportunity to
If
vote
it's
as well?
businesses.
Yep, it seems
Who votes for them? Like,
I agree 100%. I mean, I know Esther and I,
Yeah.
Patrick, talked to all our neighbors.
Their leadership.
and do we know how
They
many
get one vote
are,
per church?
One per parcel.
it's per parcel, it's
Yeah.
not split up. And
Pretty
then,
sure
I think
churches
there's
abstain
304
from votes like this.
I,
So you know.
Yeah,
Okay, any other
And the city
ideas?
can't.
which would be
Any
100.
other
lots of ideas.
For public outreach, any other ideas at this time? If not, we'll move on to discussion item number 2, which is, what's this? And Alexis.
We'll tag team it again.
Yeah, so discussion item number 2, determine the manner in which the ad hoc panel report and recommendations will be prepared. So we, as you guys know, your purpose here is to provide your recommendations to city council on whether you think the residents want to create this streetlight maintenance district, as well as any other recommendations you have for city council regarding this project. So we intend to take this to council on January 10th. And it's flexible, but that's our loose deadline right now. The way we will submit this is we have to submit a council report, so we'll submit the cover sheet. The panel will decide how you prepare your report and presentation. And now your report should include the panel's opinion of potential resident support for the creation of an anti-streetlight and maintenance district. And we'll be expecting your draft by December 31st if possible.
That's right.
That's too skinny tight.
Yes, I can.
I mean, I said this the last meeting and I'll say it again. If the city vocalizes that they're gonna pitch in a decent dollar amount, which I don't know what that is, it'll go a long way. But this whole district needs to know that the city is putting skin in the game. I'm telling you, it'll make a difference in my opinion.
but the timing won't work because we won't have that information until after we present it and they decide to go ballot.
No,
No, we can make a recommendation that the city make
Yeah.
contributions to it in order to make it more palatable for the voters. We absolutely can do that.
Right, as far as one of our recommendations, we could request the city to say, look, let's fund, $50,000 or whatever. we decide.
700.
More.
$500,000.
More.
Without affecting cost of living increases.
Is there
We
any
can make
way
that
we
part of
could get lists of those parcels and who the owners
We have
are?
it,
So
you have it already.
we have
It tells you
Yeah,
who's
they
registered.
distribute
So they,
Is the list available on the website? For example, I had someone that I was speaking to at the holiday stroll that was not positive based on the intersection where they lived. So that is on the website.
We
I-
posted every
I told them to go
agenda
there.
and all of the
Okay.
agenda items that we
Okay.
provided you onto that webpage.
Which is reachable by the QR code.
Yes.
in the past, we didn't get 100% of the parcel votes, right? Not everybody
Like
voted.
turnout, you mean, or
You
response?
know what I mean,
We
responses,
have
yeah.
that.
I don't think we know that.
I mean, what was it, like 50% of the parcels, or do we know a number on that?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I mean, it'd be
we can
kind of-
look back.
It would be kind of in our benefit.
Yeah.
If people didn't vote.
What?
No, you have
I'm
to have,
serious.
no, you
No,
have
you
to have,
have
of the
51%
of the 300 parcels, you have to have 50 plus one of that,
Okay,
not
but-
50 of
Not
the
50%
voters.
of the-
But what if they didn't vote? What if it wasn't even there?
Then we won't get
No,
51%.
you
I
have
know.
to
That's my
have
point.
Then we're done.
50%
No
of the
question.
parcels.
Yeah.
Oh, so you have to have
Yes,
a
you have to have
hundred
it.
and
We need them all to vote
50.
and hope we get.
So,
51.
Yeah, it's 50% plus.
Will Dan will be returning, on the 15th, because they should be able to turn around the amended, or revised, estimate per parcel based on the bid opening on December 8th. So at that time, they can discuss, maybe a sample timeline of when the, things start to happen after the recommendation of the council. And then they can also address your, conversation right now, as far as whether it needs, if it's 50% plus one of just the people that voted, or 50% plus one of all the parcels that are there.
Like, yeah, I don't even know what the law is.
It's all the parcels.
I mean, it seems like if half, and if half people didn't vote, then we would never be able to get it going through.
Okay,
That's a problem, but I have no idea how the law works on that.
so to stay in line with the outline, I need to invite any public comment at this time.
We have nobody participating via Zoom, and there are no members of the public.
Okay. And now invite the discussion deliberations from the panel. So we kind of started a little bit ahead, but one of the things I think we need to kind of focus in on is the instructions that are on the screen that says exactly what we need to do. Which is that we need to prepare a report and a presentation. We need to figure out how to do that. And then we
Give it to
also
Patrick.
need to figure out the information that we're going to put in the report and presentation, because it needs to include not only our opinion, but the potential resident support for the creation of the antique streetlight maintenance assessment district. The panel have any comments or suggestions, or would you like to?
I think if we divvy up sections of the streets and we get that list, and we just knock on the doors and ask, we can find out, that's one way to find out if someone is a yay or a nay.
You would like to volunteer for that?
I'll do my street, I have no problem with that. But I don't want to be out of them.
No, I mean, just, we need to divvy up the sections.
Oh, yeah.
I agree with
I
you,
mean-
we need to divvy them up, but we probably need somebody to just say,
Figure out
okay,
where
here's
you're
where you're
supposed
going, here's where you're going, here's where, because I mean, there's three of us, at least that I know, that live on one street, and so we could be.
Right, but we could divvy up Glendora just from Leodore to Sierra Madre and then Leodore down to Benton. Yeah, that's two.
Yeah. but you kind of determine like where he lives, where you live, where you live.
I mean, it's not like they're
I
far
know.
from each
You and
other.
me are right here, so which part do you get?
Well, I'd go down.
So
the
we
street.
would you mind maybe assigning,
Sure.
would everyone be willing to?
Or I could divvy that.
Be
up.
assigned a
Just go
section
Put a
of the
star
street.
where everybody lives.
We also have a
Name.
list of everybody's names and addresses and information. Do we want one person, or do we want multiple people
See,
to,
multiple people would be better. Yeah.
I guess, divvy it up?
Like, you can talk to my neighbors, I'll talk to your neighbors. They won't see me in the
Yeah,
same street.
maybe your neighbor doesn't want to talk to you, but talk to him.
Okay, so plan is to divvy the sections
Yeah.
so that we can at least start to get the resident supports, or at least an idea of how to present that information. Also, there's a prepare report. What is involved with the report? Is it just that?
It
All
will,
it is, or is there an outline?
that's up to you, really. We can kind of help you organize it afterwards, but first you need to know what you're gonna recommend to council. So your report is really what you're gonna recommend. So I know you talked about asking them to chip in, and then you're gonna tell them if you believe there's enough support or there isn't enough support. But whatever it is, you can start outlining it, and then we can definitely help you organize it a little bit, but kind of up to you, up to the panel.
I can draft a presentation and send it to you guys before the next meeting, and then we can add things in. I mean, I can make like an outline.
Sure.
I think that's a great idea.
Could we email you our ideas, Andrea, that you had bullet points or things?
Sure, I was thinking that I would just like draft the pages in the order it would go in, and then we could together add bullets to the sections.
How long does this report usually?
It's just, depends on your recommendations.
No limit. I mean,
Don't make
You
it
could
too
have
long.
multiple.
I wanna go,
as clear and concise as you can make it to kind of communicate the point. So if you in communicating your opinion about your interactions, you should probably also give a summary of all of the activities that you've undertaken as part of your outreach program. And then based on the feedback that you've received and the presentations from Rodan and, the bid costs and that, all of that taken together is here are the recommendations that we're making to move forward with this project or not, however.
I think we kind of already started forming it. I like the idea of asking the city to kick in some skin.
It's just all about the perception.
Yeah.
You guys mentioned a
Perception
$1.5
is everything.
million grant or a budget earmark that the city secured when you have the conversation.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's gotta be more than $50,000. That's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
but that 1.5 that's
I mean,
done, right? That's part of it already. You don't have-
I mean, here's the thing.
Yes.
Like the biggest example, when the city came in and wham bam really quick and passed that 3/4 of a penny tax law. That alone has generated millions and millions of dollars. I know that, and a lot of people, I believe, know that. So to put in, $250,000 or $500,000 just based on that tax alone, it was passed on improving the city. What has the city done after 2 years of collecting those millions of dollars? What have they done in the community? Can you tell me
Are
anything?
you suggesting?
Yeah,
that they
actually, Kyle
earmark
can
Yeah.
give you where all that money's been going to.
Yeah, but I don't know where it went to.
Yeah.
But that's my point, the knowledge.
Yeah.
Like, I have no idea. I've
Is
seen
it all
our
spent
parks.
or there's a kitty somewhere that got some money?
Well, it's a general tax, so we get it every year, so it's not limited to, it wasn't a one-time shot.
But it's generating millions of dollars, correct?
So, yeah, yes,
Millions and millions of dollars
yeah, so.
for community projects, and that's how you guys marketed it. So remember that.
Community project, as an example of things that it could be used on, right? So it's a general tax, so it funds things that are funded by the general fund, which is our discretionary funding. So for instance, if we funded 3 police officer positions out of it, I think actually 5 now. The improvements to Pink Planter Park, the pickleball courts, tennis, and all, there's a recent project that's being funded out of those. And we, every year, when there's, we send money into our capital projects fund to do other facility improvements which includes parks and streets and all those kinds of projects. And it's all on our website, on our budget document. We have a reconciliation that shows how the measuring money has been spent.
Is there a way that we could have the city earmark 50,000, 100,000 a year for 10 years to these antique lights?
That could be one of your recommendations in your report.
That's something that's feasible, or that money already earmarked for other projects?
Typically, well, it's already earmarked. We have a 5-year CIP plan, so that we've got CIP projects 5 years out.
Why isn't one of them the antique lights? The city benefits as much as the residents.
So that is, I think, in part of our money is that's why it's only, we're $700,000 short. We've got $150,000 thereabouts. That's currently on the CIP in the adopted budget.
All I'm saying, millions of dollars. Millions of
We just
dollars.
need to get to
Wait, are you saying that they've already earmarked 150,000 from the city towards this?
Yeah, I believe in our first meeting, we had,
Oh, I remember.
we had 1.5 million plus, I think it was, that's what we've been paying, the street signs and all that out of, right?
Is that an annual budget or just one time?
One time.
But the deficit still remains at 700,000.
At this time, yes.
Okay, so I'm sorry to take into consideration.
Yeah.
And that's still an estimate number. to be determined by what the quotes come back on December 8th?
Yes.
So that could go up or down.
That's correct.
Yeah, so in the city budget, we've got the $1.5 million, that was the earmark from the state budget, so the city staff procured that, and then we've got $150,000.
Where's that 1.5 million? Is it in a bank account or is it a promissory note or
So,
I believe does it exist?
couldn't use it.
I think we've already received it.
On paper.
Okay, so kind of have our work cut out for us and that we need to start going door to door to get that public opinion and use our information that's been provided to us, so that we can really get an idea of what the public is and how they feel, so that we, once we do make our recommendations, we're not just only talking about, oh, how much is the city gonna we need to talk about, okay, this is a big, it's a circle, and we need to include how the public feels about it, because some of the public might feel like they're willing to contribute as much as possible. It doesn't matter if they just want the lights turned on. And we have talked to some neighbors who feel that way. And so they don't really care about whether the city is putting it on or not. They just want the lights on. There's other people who are going to be really excited about the fact that their property values are going to go up. There's other people that want that safety aspect of it. So we really kind of need to gauge, maybe in addition to how much are you willing to pay each year on your taxes, what would be the benefit? Why would you like the lights to go on? Is it for security? Is it for just property value increase? What is, we need to maybe find the desire or why, as we're having conversations with people, so we can really determine what their opinion is, not just the product.
So then someone should make a script that,
Yeah.
then when you're knocking on the doors, we would then need to keep track of which doors we've knocked on, whether we've seen someone. And then you could ask them, what is your primary concern? Are you concerned with safety? Are you concerned with property value? Or are you concerned about the historical value? And then keep track of that. And then we could add it to the presentation.
That's good.
It's kind of nice to go with another person, so I don't know if people feel comfortable taking something with them, or maybe even another panel member.
Yeah.
Kind of find that information, so one person has a clipboard and keeping track, okay, this person, goes this way, this person.
Well, Esther and I and Patrick already covered number one.
So, yeah, we did find out how much, that was one of the primary things that we wanted to find out right off the bat, was how much are you willing to pay? And we had some pretty good feedback.
All the feedback is positive, I believe. I heard anybody say, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm not putting a penny towards that light.
I may have heard
Not
that
recently.
loud and clear
Really?
at the holiday stroke.
Yeah.
Yes,
Were they in the zone, in the
yes.
really?
I mean, I tell you, the 3 points, I mean, it's safety would be number one for me.
Yeah,
Historical value
Yeah.
number second, property value number three.
yes. But
The
at least-
safety-
At least the top.
You see, and I'll tell you, the safety being number one, why? Because guess what we have going right through our city right now? Big old metro type deal and everything.
Yeah,
And we have more problems today
yes.
than we've had in the
We
past.
need lights more than we ever needed.
Safety's a bigger concern. And historical value, and I think just driving up Glendora, I mean, it's just beautiful. And just to add those lights in there, I mean, it's just so,
Historical value alone, that's why I was.
and that benefits the entire
Yes.
city of Glendora.
That's why I wanted to get the city more involved, because it benefit, I mean, we're all gonna be long and gone, and the city lights just gonna be
Yeah.
there. It benefits the city of Medora.
And when you spend $1,000 in candy and you run out in 2 hours, right?
Yes, so I'm just curious, how does a panel member, how does a panel feel about, does everyone want the lights on?
I think so.
About what?
Yes.
Does
Should we
everyone
do a
want the
vote?
lights on?
Oh, yeah.
I'm just
You want the lights
curious,
on?
because
Yes.
there've
Oh,
been
yeah.
meetings where
We all do, that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's fine.
There's been
Yeah.
opinions expressed about, there's been strong opinions, I guess, so I'm just kind of curious, is everyone want the lights
Exactly what
on,
they hear.
or?
The main reason I'm here is because I want to see the lights back on.
I agree.
And I think I put that in my
That's what I'm
application.
hearing.
So I kind
You
of,
know?
I think that when we're talking to people door to door, we
That was more-
should focus on that. The fact that we want to.
Yeah.
We're trying to actually
Contribute a little bit.
not only gather, how people's opinions are about the life, but we need to be, I guess, positive and, coming from the idea that, hey, we really want the lights on, how do you feel about this? Why would you want the lights on? We want to know what your opinion is, because this could come to a vote, but first we have to form a district before it
Right.
continues.
And give them the opportunity to say why they wouldn't want them on. I don't see why anybody would not want them on. But give them a chance to say, hey, well, I don't want it because of this. Like that's what. And what did he tell you? Because of what the cost.
Yeah.
We
There you
need to
go.
be prepared with,
A rebuttal.
like what you're
Yeah.
saying, is we need to be prepared with, what are we gonna be saying when they bring up money? And it's like Barrett is saying, it's like, well, there's security, we have to draw from our own ideas as to why we want the lights on. We want the lights because of security reasons, of property value, of historical value. And I mean, those are the main three things right there, but those are the types of conversations that we need to be having with each person who answers the door, basically.
Well, I think you're right. I think we need a script. I think we just need to break up these things, have everyone sign up for their section, give everybody the list of the names and the addresses or the parcels they have to stop by. And on that same list, have some kind of a script, maybe the checkoff list. Yeah, we spoke with this. Yeah, we spoke with this. Kind of help you keep on track, and then just get out on our feet. Just get out there.
And then where do we deliver this information? Are we getting in touch with Andrea, or are we having, so that we can kind of give you the feedback or the results of all of this?
I think, I'm like, I know we could probably make something like a Google form that you fill out at each house you go to, and then it goes to a spreadsheet, and then we have it all together. But I was just looking at the calendar, because if we're gonna get this information prior to the presentation to the city council on January 10th, we're running into the holiday time, and I'm not sure.
It's gonna be hard.
How we're gonna be
Time
able to do that.
constraints.
Yeah. Some
So-
hours is coming up quick.
It'll be here before you know it.
Yeah.
So Christmas is the
If-
25th, probably no one's doing anything after Christmas.
I'm happy to communicate to the city council if the panel would like some additional time. We can certainly,
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we should,
Yes.
I think we should push
It's not
it
the
to
time.
mid-February.
Yeah,
Just do the
when is the
presentation.
February meeting?
Yeah.
we have 2 meetings every month, the second and fourth Tuesday of the month.
The second and fourth Tuesday,
I
so
think
the
we should
7th
back
and
up.
the 20th.
Yeah, it's
No,
like right
the
now.
14th
It's strictly for the holidays. People are busy, people are
and
out
the
of town,
28th.
people have commitments.
That's all right.
Like
Fourth.
every fourth
I think
December.
we're ready. Yeah,
February 14th, Valentine's Day.
yeah, I was gonna say Valentine's Day, perfect.
Or the
Hey, if I can talk
28th.
my wife into it, anybody can talk to.
I have a school board meeting on the 14th, so I could not be there on the 14th.
If we can push it back, I think everybody's consistent.
Or-
with that. I think it'd be.
Or the
I can certainly make the ask.
Yeah.
We need a little more time.
Yep.
If we want to get out there and see the people and get the knowledge out there in the information. Because I can tell you right now, if we go and split this up and we come back and it's like 90% approval rate, and we know that going into it, it's going to be much easier, I think.
To ask for what we want.
Yeah.
And then as we go, we could bring out the signs and we could
But
say,
then
if
that
we have
can-
your positive feedback, can we put a sign in?
Yeah, so the longer you wait to get to council, the more you're pushing back.
Or can we go
Is there a
later,
meeting on January 24th?
In January.
Yeah, January 24th.
Yes.
That,
That might be
Might
good.
be possible, yeah.
Because it'll be the new year, or.
We
We
can
can
work-
deliver our draft.
no, that's council.
Council meeting January 24th.
Yeah.
So the draft would have to be delivered like the 10th or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, that seems much more feasible.
Actually, just going to door to door, from my experience, it takes a little while to have conversations. So you might plan on 10 houses per day, depending on how much time. And it's, after a while, you're like, I'm hungry now. So I want to go do my own
I would
thing.
anticipate.
So it does take time when they have to.
We also live in a day and age when not everyone answers their door. So we have to see how many people will even answer the door and then whether or not they're the homeowner.
We gotta get that half flyer out,
I like that.
the mailer. We gotta get that out as soon as possible. I don't know how that looks, how we can do that, but
And
that would be important, because that you could just drop in the mailbox or something like that, to where you don't have to knock on the door. And I think that should come before knocking on the
I
door.
think so too.
Or, you know,
Yes,
So the mail flyer, which one are you referring to, a smaller version of this? or
he had the good
another
idea.
one?
I'm telling you, yeah.
Just simplify.
and you said you guys came up with a flyer.
Yeah, I can coordinate with whoever's doing that. I
Yeah.
don't have time to do it myself, but I can certainly send it.
I mean,
before.
A PDF printed out. I mean, that could be the same thing as splitting this up. Just go drop it in somebody's mailbox, man. That'll take.
You can start with this one just to start the education process.
Yes.
And then
Yeah, I think
multiple different ones.
even this
Coming up.
weekend, if anyone's comfortable, I don't know, I was waiting for, I was gonna ask about this, I see the QR code is on this one.
Yeah.
So, and another thought is that we're not just
We
going
kind
to
of
visit
didn't have
that
it in
one.
the other.
I think
They had a lot of other information that was.
Do we want the timelines accurate there like this?
Not right now.
A little flyer?
Yeah.
If you want
Maybe
more
not.
copies, we can have those made and honestly, it's a historic, if we can drop them off.
Yeah, I was thinking if we have to have the new ones, maybe we should just wait for the new design, but if you had some time to.
I think we need to stop talking about this.
Do you have this in a PDF that you can email out to everybody?
Yes. It's also,
Have they emailed
It's also
out?
posted to
Have
the
they been
website.
emailed out to people?
Yeah, well,
That one?
us,
Yeah, so us, that's
It's
what I
also on the website too.
meant. Okay.
we can email everybody a PDF.
Sorry, did we determine how we were gonna kind of deliver our results?
I think
The draft?
she says she's gonna do the outline, but I tell you, if we should, 2 people, my opinion should be her. Just to kind of get everybody's thoughts together, and then they kind of present it to the group, and we say, yes,
go for it, yeah.
or can you add this? And keep it to 2 people, concise and to the point.
So we're meeting again on the 15th. I'll bring the draft outline of the presentation and then I can bring like a sample of like a Google form that you can like have on your phone.
Yeah.
And fill out.
I think that's practical. Was there consensus? Was this the approved? Is this finalized, this flyer? Okay,
Last, yeah.
okay.
This is a finalized.
Okay, so next
And we're gonna make more.
meetings. We'll just go ahead and move on. Updated future meetings and tentative discussion items and Alexis.
So the next meeting is in 2 weeks, right?
Mhm.
What's the date? December
15th.
December 15th, at which point we'll continue, I mean, you're pretty much working on your report at that time. So, I mean, you'll have some feedback hopefully. So you'll start working on your report, start agreeing on what you want to recommend to the council. And after that, you'll be able to submit to us a draft and get, I think we said draft by January 10th, so to give you some more time. But definitely be ready to agree on your recommendations as much as you can for the next meeting.
Be ready to agree.
And the draft is January 10th, if you get the approval of the council to move it.
Okay.
And you could, of course, if you have any more ideas on future outreach, you could bring it up.
Or email us in between meetings.
And we'll be opening bids on next Thursday, the 8th. We'll land the financial consultant to update the cost based off of whatever bids we received. And we should be presenting that as well at the next meeting.
When is the new due date on the bid?
Thursday, December 8th.
That's when it opens.
Yeah.
When does it due? I mean,
So that's the due date.
That's
yeah.
the due date.
Because
the
you
bid
like get
opens
the
and closes
envelope
on
and
the
it's
same
open.
day?
No, it's currently open for
Oh,
bid.
okay.
What,
It opened on the 25th.
we call it,
It's been real quick. It's been advertised and back before COVID, they would give you a sealed envelope and you open the bid on that day. So
Oh,
that's why it's called bid opening,
opening.
because it was
I
sealed
thought it
until that
starts
time.
On that day. Okay, good.
So the envelope is physically open.
That makes more sense.
But now it's online, so,
Right, you're able to see the submissions there.
no, we don't see anything until
Well,
ten
not the
AM.
details, but are you able to see if submissions have?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because they're submitted. We can see if somebody submitted something, but we can't see any details until ten
After the
AM.
8th.
Have you received any bids yet?
I haven't checked. Well, there's interest, there's plan holders, but people don't bid until like the hour before.
Okay.
Last-
All right.
yeah,
They hold it.
ran
Yeah.
They hold it kind of till the end there, and then they freaking all, it comes in a flurry. Because they don't want anybody to know their number.
Well, no, nobody knows the number because it's submitted and nobody.
But you know that I do this every day. People like to hold it because they don't want to put something out there early because people talk, right? So that's why they do it. It's supposed to be anonymous, and they're not supposed to talk about it, but people do. So they hold it at the very end, so that information doesn't leak. You know, if they put it a month early, nobody does that.
And there's been other projects also, so they work for schedules.
Kathy, you said we don't have any public comments or.
There is, right, correct.
Nobody's watching.
Are there any other closing comments?
I have one thing. Because we're all neighbors, do you think it'd be worthy or time well spent if we just got together on our own and steamrolled some ideas? Because they're here to answer questions that we know nothing, we don't know the answers to, but maybe we need to come to this meeting with a bucket of questions. So we're kind of thinking on the fly right now. Come up with ideas on the fly, but maybe if we sat together for a while, came up with some good questions. Next time we meet with them, we'll be able to say, here's our list of questions. What about this, and this?
Is this a phone meeting or an
I don't know.
in-person meeting?
I don't know, we're all neighbors, maybe we can meet someone's front yard.
Well, we're meeting again in 2 weeks
Yeah.
now. Will Dan is coming to that.
Yeah, there'll be a
One.
virtual.
Possibly there'll be
Maybe
information about,
The updated assessment.
yes.
Yeah.
And then we'll have a draft of the thing to add bullets to.
Does everyone have everyone's phone number?
I think we're all on an email blast.
Start there.
Just the email.
Somebody started something. Didn't they?
I'm fine with giving my phone number.
I just think we're all busy with life. and
We are,
kids and
I know,
stuff like
kind of
that. It's
holidays.
tough.
Would you like me to email everybody's email address and phone number to the panel?
That would be great.
I have no problem with that. I have no
Yes.
problem.
You,
I'm good with
you have a problem with
I
that?
do not.
Oh.
I think- Do not call me. No,
Just
I'm
show
in.
it to my front yard.
If you can put my secretary at the Glendora Historical Society on there as well.
We need
Anyone
you
who has
involved.
any questions or wants any coordination with us, more than welcome to get in touch.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your
I
input
do.
Yeah,
and
thank you so much.
would like to come to any future meetings. Please do.
You're on
I
the,
might be able to come to the January meeting, but I don't think I'll be able to.
Would you like me to add you to the distribution group, just so you're getting the emails and the agendas?
I was wondering since day one why the historical society wasn't involved.
Was it under this thing?
Well, that's technically,
He is.
yeah, we have one representative.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
think it was just close.
And
He
Mr.
just
Oliver's here. to talk to
he just
you.
Well, I printed this out. Okay, so.
So when
And brought
there
it.
is
I noticed there.
well, if Ian isn't here, then has been here to everything. Okay, if there's no other comments, All right, I adjourn the meeting at 7:00 PM. Thank you.